Coming up on today's episode of Parasport Nation, AMI's Kelly Macdonald is no stranger to hot takes. He shares his hot takes on the world of parasport and his deep love of goalball. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into Parasport Nation. I'm your host, Alex Smyth, as always, joined by Nathan Clement. Nathan, it is great to see you again, sir. Another exciting episode. This time we're keeping it all in the family with an AMI personality like no other, Kelly Macdonald.
It's great to keep it in-house, and it was great to meet Kelly for the first time, and it was a wonderful conversation with so many deep insights into goalball, but also so many other sports, which I cannot wait for everyone to listen and see today.
Yeah, well, that's not the only bit of exciting news, though, because you, this past weekend, were a very busy man putting on your very own little paracycling race competition. Tell me a bit about what took place at Shim's Ride.
Yeah, so for the sixth year, Shim's Ride happened in Vancouver. This started out as a fundraising opportunity for a former UVic rower who got hit by a car while cycling, and it's turned into an event that has captivated Victoria and Vancouver. And we had our second rendition of a para time trial. Now, in paracycling, often athletes will never race against other categories or other classifications outside of their own or at a Paralympic Games. So what we've done just for group sizes is have, no matter if you're a tandem rider in the B category, if you're a hand biker, if you're a C cyclist, or if you're a triker, you're going head to head in a time trial using a factoring system from Australia. So it keeps the stakes pretty high, and it has you going up against teammates and friends going for the crown and going for the win. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome, because the last thing you want, especially for someone who's not used to or aware of parasport all that often, did you have people racing in all these different categories? It's like, well, they all win because they're all racing in their own category. No. We want a definitive winner, damn it. Okay. But how was it? How was the experience? How was the fan atmosphere during the competition?
I think it's wonderful. I think we really took a step forward with the time trial. Last year in 2024, we had Jessica Law of the Canadian National Cycling Team and Brent Worrell, a para rider from the Okanagan, come down and race. This year we had Lachlan Hodgkiss from Surrey, as well as Kate O'Brien, the 2016 Rio Olympian, and Tokyo and Paris Paralympic medalist come out and race. So overall, it was just phenomenal having those two on the course. Lachlan hit the ground midway through the race, but was able to get back up and actually take the victory and win the para time trial. So the stakes were high. I think the crowd loved it. We got a great reception, and it was another great opportunity just to display parasport and display the high performance of paracycling. And it's that step forward that we need to take, and at least the early feedback I've gotten is a lot of race organizers and even clubs now interested in really growing the para grassroots and turning this into a major event. But overall, I'm so thankful to the Shim's team, the Shim's Ride group, just giving para athletes that opportunity to race and showcase ourselves to a massive crowd of people in Vancouver.
Well, that's awesome. And what is your hope going forward for it? Because you mentioned you want to continue to grow. You're getting a lot of that interest, but ultimately, this is something that you've kind of put on, and you're growing year after year already. The excitement's there, but what do you want it to become?
But I want this to become, and really what I want Vancouver to be, and I have a little cowbell up there at the top left of my screen, a red cowbell. There's another event that happened in Vancouver about a week before called the Gastown Grand Prix, which is Vancouver and Canada's biggest cycling race, single day cycling race in the calendar. And what I want to do with events like Shim's, but with Gastown and other events that happen in our city, is get para involvement, have para races, and have para fields deep, where it's much more than 3 riders. We got 10, we got 15, and it gets to the point where we have to separate based off class or based off category. For right now, it's great doing this factoring system time trial, but I want to expand it to the point where this is the opportunity for up and coming riders to get classified, set up a classification system, but also get that local experience. Because one of the big problems with parasport and parasport development in Canada is often our first race is national championships. And for up and coming riders, even for families, that is very difficult. That's very difficult to afford a trip, a flight across the country to go race where you're not even going to come maybe in a position where you can qualify. But this allows that opportunity for riders, whether they're up and coming or elite, to meet each other, get to know each other, and just grow that movement, grow that base, because it's important to get eyeballs on this sport. It's important to get eyeballs on any parasport. And the only way to do that is getting out. And every time we can get out, we can race, we can really grow what we want to do. And I want to turn this, as well as that race I mentioned before, Gastown, another one called Concord, and a few other races throughout the summer, into a series, into an opportunity where we can get classification happening, whether it's national classification, and really turn Vancouver into the cycling mecca that it can be and should be, because we have some of the most beautiful roads, most beautiful backdrops you can find in North America, and just really utilizing it. So what I want to see is classification. What I want to see is that growth where you can eventually break off and have different categories going head to head, but also allow for international riders to come out and just really turn this into the event that it can be, and turn Vancouver into the cycling mecca for parasport.
Well, Nathan, you got me pumped. I'm ready. Like, clearly you're excited, you're passionate about this. I can literally hear it pouring through the microphone and the speakers, just hearing you talk about it. I'm sure it's going to continue to grow. You got all our support behind it. Like, it's going to be a great event. Maybe we're on the ground and we're covering it, doing some play-by-play as well. That would be pretty fun. But it's great to have a grassroots, a mid-tier competition to be that stepping stone that you don't have to jump all the way to the national competitions. Grassroots are so important. And that is exactly what our next guest will be here to talk to you about, because Kelly Macdonald, AMI's own Kelly Macdonald, he's no stranger to sports, parasports. He grew up playing goalball and all these other blind adaptive sports, especially at the grassroots level. And he really wanted to come on, share his experience, and also some of his hot takes, something he's very known for. So here's our conversation with Kelly Macdonald. Mr. Macdonald, Kelly, thank you so much for joining PSN. We finally have you on the show.
Wow. Alex, Nathan, it's nice. I'm making the rounds this summer, talking on a couple of podcasts, talking on some shows at the AMI. And it's fine that you guys finally found a reason to bring me out here. Finally. I know it took research and time.
Well, you know what? Hey, I'm so used to being on your show talking sports. It was only fair to have you on our show to talk sports this time round. Let's begin just on a broad spectrum, so our audience gets more familiar with you and your kind of background and love of parasports. So for yourself, what has been the parasport or parasports that you have really watched or followed the most in your life and in your time kind of covering things overall?
Overall, I have to say goalball. And again, that's a sport I played years ago on a fairly competitive level. Wheelchair basketball, definitely follow that. And I think most people in watching parasports kind of do check in on it. Swimming is also the other one that seems very obtainable. And I think that goes back for me to knowing so many blind swimmers from when I was in school and through life, because they would spend so many hours in the pool and really honing their craft, building up their speeds, and traveling overseas and different places to kind of qualify to get to Paralympics. So I would also say I've picked up an interest, and again, sometimes it's hard to follow depending on the coverage of it, but the sitting volleyball is also a very interesting sport. Judo, always check in on that as well, and trying to learn a little more about five-a-side/blind soccer.
Kelly, thank you for joining us. You mentioned earlier that you had a goalball career as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey as a goalball player?
I sure will, Nathan. In high school, we had like an intramural little league at the blind school in Brantford, and I was about, I guess, 13, 15 years old kind of at the time. Well, I remember playing one season and getting asked to stay behind by some of the counselors who doubled as coaches at the time for the Ontario goalball team, A and B squads. And they asked me how interested I was in goalball. They informed me that I seemed to have a really good handle on it. And of course, I didn't really take it serious. I played all the school sports. We did, our form of blind hockey, baseball. We did the football in the fall. So I said, oh, well, okay, but tell me about that. Now, my biggest worry, and my former wrestling coach would tell you this, Kelly's biggest worry was missing weekends, because we stayed through the week at the blind school and went home on weekends, and I hated to give up weekends to go to tournaments. I couldn't stand it. So I would try to work my way out of it. Well, most of the goalball stuff that we would be involved in took place on weekends. So I told him I'd be interested, and that included practices. So I started practicing with the Ontario A and B teams and went out to some tournaments. And my career kind of lasted fairly short. I think on that competitive, I think I did 2 years. And then I found other reasons when I left the blind school to sort of step out of it. And I will tell you, it's the one thing I've dropped out of in life, and I've tried not to drop out of too many things. That's for sure. I usually just don't start them, so I don't have to drop out of them. It's the one thing I'm incredibly sorry I dropped out of. Not just because I could have went to the Paralympics. I think I was in very fair shape to do so with some hard work, but because I actually really enjoyed it.
And be honest, though, when that first meeting, when you had the teachers ask you to stay behind after class, were you a bit worried you were in trouble, or you screwed up on something and you were going to get called out?
Yeah, I was worried that look, Kelly, stop shooting the ball so hard. Stop doing it. Stop staying on the floor so long. Give someone else a chance. It was really strange, but I'll tell you, it gave me anxiety when they told me about it, because you know how you feel like you should do this, but do you really want to? And there's others out there who would kill for the opportunity, and here I am. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, goalball has such a great community of people, especially on the men's and women's side. And the Canadian women's goalball team just took a silver medal at the inaugural Goalball UK tournament. What do you make of our national team's successes on the women's and men's side at the moment?
Well, at the moment, men have struggled a little more, but I know people will say, well, men's competition throughout the world, starting with our neighbors to the south, is just so fierce. I love what you see from the girls team, and I know it's that time for some changeover and things like that to happen. I found over the last few years, scoring goals has been at a premium, but the defense is just so solid. And I'm a huge defense person. I think if you have defense, as long as you can score that 1 or 2 goals, you make it. But some of those teams out there are just so efficient at scoring, and that's where we get those games that are 11-1 mercies and so on. But I think it's a time of change for the girls and the guys. But fedoras off when you see them collecting a silver and moving forward, climbing back up, and it gives you that feeling of anticipation for what they can do. I also love the speed of the game. It's one of those sports that when we played it, we were, of course, flattered by being told, oh, gosh, you guys are in such great shape. Oh, what makes you say that? As I huffed and puffed off the court. Well, because it's endurance. You keep playing until you're subbed out. It's a constant game. And it's so true. I'm sure tennis players feel the same way about them moving back and forth, no matter what you're talking about. But goalball's right up there in one of those focus hard, concentrate, and be moving, and then jumping up and in your seconds that you have to return your throws, gathering up, getting yourself together, passing the ball, and doing what needs to be done to win these games.
And as someone who has called numerous goalball games, yeah, they are indeed fast, because I struggle to keep up with the calls of the goalball matches. And by the time I give the call out on one throw, it's already back at the other end and being launched back. So absolutely, the speed is always phenomenal. And Kelly, for yourself, you've had the opportunity to try many different para sports through your time with the different programs and different things at AMI and in your personal life. But are there any para sports you haven't tried yet that you would love to give it a go?
Well, I know from my old show Blindsided, I had the opportunity to do some para tandem biking. And I'm a tandem biker. I get out a few times a year at least on a tandem bike and ride. And I did have the experience, which shook me up a lot, of going to a velodrome, getting my feet in the pedals, being told, okay, we're fastening your feet in, and getting that experience, which was something I had never had. All my tandem biking, I could step out and step down when I needed to and stuff like that. But being told, no, your feet are fastened in. You can't just pull them out of the pedals. Well, what if we crash? Well, we'll try not to. That experience made me just so curious. Riding at the velodrome, getting up to incredible speed, what it would be like to train. And I think that would be the sport that I would love to try. I certainly am not in the shape for it, but it really, because again, it's one of those sports you think, how long could you be doing it? Because you always think of your longevity and how soon could someone start it. Okay, maybe I'm a little past that point, but boy, what a fun sport where you're relying on your strength. You're the stoker back there while your captain is taking you around, and the skill they have to have while you're competing along with others. I think that would be a real rush. And as a blind person, obviously that's the one that comes to mind. I've done the swimming enough, done the goalball, but something I would love to have tried, I think, secondarily. I also like some of the track and field. The pole vaulting would be absolutely a riot to do. Some of that stuff is just too amazing to me when you see the accomplishments of totally blind people doing that.
Well, you're speaking to a cyclist here. We can find ways of getting you on the back of a tandem bike. I do know it's one of those sports and one of those disciplines in cycling that's just amazing to see the speed, especially in person, feel the volume and the power that comes out of the riders, especially when you're on the side of the course or you just hear them whipping down a hill. I remember one race I was at in Baie-Comeau, Quebec. The riders were coming down the hill at over 100 kilometers an hour, and you could feel the wind off them, and just the art, but also discipline and just trust and camaraderie you have to have as a pilot and stoker is just beautiful to see. It's one of those amazing sports, but that's what's great about Paralympic sport as a whole. There's so many different disciplines and so many different areas of just athletes having to work together. Is there any sports that you like to see that haven't gained that game status yet get into the Paralympics?
Well, I being from Canada, and I think Nathan, I worked that out really well, knowing that, well, Nathan's got all the ins for this, so maybe we could be doing this again when it comes to the cycling. That's for sure. Offhand, I mean, I'm going to go to the default of, for the winter, the blind hockey. I'm not as much of a big hockey person. There's some things I think in the rules I kind of like, it'd be interesting if we could change that a little bit, maybe make it a bit more even inclusive. And then I see the numbers of people doing it, and I stop and say, yeah, it is kind of unfair, isn't it? I would love to see the snowboarding more inclusive of other disabilities. I know it's been one of those show sports, but I really can't wait for it to become, especially for the low vision and blind community. We see the skiing and everything like that. I want to see more of the snowboarding. I think that's the stuff that would be absolutely amazing to get included. Hockey, I think blind hockey could be that. It would give the basketball, the wheelchair basketball, a rival and be that sport for the blind. I think goalball, as wonderful it is, as much as people enjoy seeing it, I still think the hockey, when it gets on that center stage, it will reign supreme at those Winter Olympics. It'll be great.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you just see the crowds and the groundswell of support that blind hockey here in Canada, but also abroad, continues to get as every single iteration of those competitions that we have a chance to go and check out and broadcast from and cover. every year there's more and more players coming from across Canada, but also around the world that come to the Blind Hockey National Championships in Toronto. So I think it's just a matter of time, Kelly, before you see blind hockey reach that Paralympic level for sure. But
yeah, they've worked at it for a long time. And you know, I mean, like I say, I kind of used to think, what's the hype, you guys? It's just the sport that the sighted community out there can relate to the most. But you know what? You see that international feel as people come to Toronto to take part in something they truly love. You see how it's received by all the students that show up on Friday from the Toronto District School Board that just are screaming. You see how many people online are investigating it. And I know they're doing that with basketball, with goalball, and so many of the other hockey related stuff for the winter sports in that sense. But wow, it's I think it's just going to take the world by storm when the time comes. But they've worked so hard, and it's so deserved.
Absolutely, so true. Now is time for moving away from the praise and the celebration, because you, as a longtime broadcaster, you're no stranger to hot takes and putting your reputation on the line, putting an unpopular opinion out there. So, Kelly, I want to know, what is your biggest parasport hot take?
Okay, well, you know it's got to be on coverage. It's got to be on exposure. I would love to learn, as I sit here telling you what I'd like to see part of parasports, what I enjoy the most, thinking of how many sports I haven't mentioned. At least between the two, I'm sure I haven't mentioned anything to do with 20-some. All right, like, you think about how come? Well, because I don't really know about them. I only know what I hear. I don't know the rules for some of the ones I've turned the TV on. Or there's no broadcaster, which I want more of. I want somebody telling me what this sport is about. We're seeing people have an interest somewhat, whether you're finding it online, whether it's on CBC Gem, wherever it might be, there are people watching on. But beyond that, there's an obligation. These are hardworking athletes who are really honed their craft, who put so much time into it, governments who put money into their training. They represent my country. I have a right to watch this. I have a right to learn about it. I have a right to hear. They have the right, since they're giving up so much of their lives for our country's prestige, the way we look, to be showcased and put on that stage once every 4 years. They deserve it. They're owed it. So for me, I really want that investment in the broadcasting. I want the education. I mean, as a disabled person, I know a fair amount of Paralympians. And I challenge those out there who aren't vision impaired or part of the disability world at this time to think of how many Olympians you know. This has always been a privilege. I've been the MC at the Ontario Blind Sports Gala so many times because of that pride. Because I can sit there. I remember this person. I remember when they were getting up early in the morning to go swimming 5 times a week for an hour and a half to possibly qualify. I want everyone to know them. And I remember as a little kid watching the Ontario Games when they were in Toronto one year, and Roger, well, it wasn't Rogers at the time, but the Cable 10, I think it is, was at the time in Toronto, broadcast some of it. They recorded some of the games and were playing them. And I got to see people I was going to school with interviewed, and how they stood 10 feet tall even at 10 years old. It was tremendous.
I love that answer. That is absolutely incredible. And that media coverage, especially as a Paralympic athlete myself. And as you said, we have so many, we're all connected on this show to Paralympians, past, present, and hopefully future. And just for them to be honored, for them to be celebrated, because they're putting that sacrifice, they're putting that time in. And with sport, there's a lot going on in the world, but sport is that celebration of what the human body can do when it's pushed to its uppermost limits. And there's so many just remarkable human beings and stories and just great athletes out there representing that maple leaf every year, every quadrennial, every games. And just to highlight them and celebrate them is so important and so huge.
Yeah, if we could solve our problems in the world and our difficulties just by having competitive sports be the way, a sporting event, and instead of wars, boy, would our world be so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, this has been so fantastic. I hate that we waited this long to have you on the show. It's not going to happen again. You will be back. We will make sure of it. I'm making the public declaration right now. But thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for the invite, guys. Take care.
And that was our conversation with Kelly Macdonald. Nathan, I love talking to him any chance you get. I mean, he's just a great guy to talk to, but the knowledge, that foundational history that he has of adaptive sports, especially the blind sports or the VI sports of his time with W. Ross Macdonald, I mean, he is like an encyclopedia, it seems, when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and even his stories from W. Ross Macdonald and other things that he's done was just great to hear, great to listen. But even his hot take talking about exposures, I guess kind of the theme of this episode, where it's that grassroots, but also that media side and really building that out. And one thing we try to do, and there's so many other networks and channels really starting to make that progress, like Cultured in the United States and other networks all around the globe, is get eyeballs on parasport, because these sports are amazing. There's incredible moments, and just continuing to expand and grow that. But was there any big takeaways from the interview for you, Alex?
I mean, you nailed it with the hot take. But yeah, like me and Kelly have had many conversations through the years. I mean, I was always going on promoting what we were doing on PSN, and he was always excited to chat sports with me. But yeah, getting the conversation around the hot takes of the media coverage, like it's just something that I think everyone involved in what we're doing is so passionate about, that there's clearly an appetite here. There's clearly a need. There's a void within the media landscape that needs to be elevated, because these are athletes. These are high performance athletes. They deserve the attention that they haven't been getting so far. We see great examples abroad, but we can do a better job here at home. And I think that's really something that I'm focused on trying to be better at, and trying to get this show to do better at exposing and highlighting and sharing the great work and athletic achievements of our athletes. But until then, there's other work that we can be doing, and we can also have some fun along the way, Nathan. And that's exactly what I want to be doing with you right now, because we're going to try something new. We're going to try to have a little game and see how well you do at Guess That Parasport, baby.
Guess That Parasport.
So, I have 4 different parasports. There's 3 clues to help you along the way. At any point after each guess, you can take a guess and see if you can figure out what the parasport is. The more clues you get, obviously, the more help you needed to figure it out. I didn't go easy on you. These are challenging ones, so let's get started with your first sport. Your first clue, it's a summer sport.
That's all I'm getting?
That's all you're getting. It's a summer sport.
All right. Gonna throw it out there, because I got a lot of heat in the comments about my blind power rankings from this sport, so I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to say wheelchair basketball.
No, that's incorrect. And for you at home, folks, if you want to play along, be sure to leave a comment where you guessed the sport, or leave your guesses in the comments below. The second hint here for you is it's a race/timed competition. So we talked about races and timed competitions already. That's the second clue.
It's a summer sport and is raced in time. I think you're going to go outside of the sports that I would do or pick. So I am going to say para canoe.
Nope, that's incorrect. Your final clue for this one, it's always indoors. So this first sport, it's a summer sport, it's a race/time competition, and it's always indoors. Last chance.
The only thing coming to mind is paracycling.
Well, ding ding, correct. That is that sport. Congratulations, you got it. I'll give you 1 point for guessing it after the third clue. The second one, your first clue, it's a winter sport.
We're really going pretty vast with these openers, eh?
These are broad clues. I'm not going to give it all the way in the first clue.
I want to say wheelchair curling.
Well, you would be wrong, because it is not wheelchair curling. But that said, the second clue, Canada is a strong medal contender for Milano Cortina.
My mind originally races to a sport that you had a hot take in, a very big hot take in. And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And I think the temperature is quite warm right now. So I am going to say Paranordic.
You would be wrong. Your final clue, athletes can reach up to 100 kilometers per hour in this sport.
You should have opened with that, Kilu.
No, because then it would be too easy.
Para-alpine.
That is correct. It is para-alpine. See, I'm trying not to give anything away with your guesses as well with my reaction. So I'm just enjoying you being wrong for the first three and finally getting at the last one. This one I think is going to be a bit challenging for you. So this is a team sport.
All right, it's a team sport. Let's run through the team sports I can think of. We got goalball. We got wheelchair rugby. We got sitting volleyball. We have wheelchair basketball. I've already guessed wheelchair basketball. I think I'm going back to that well again. Wheelchair basketball.
You are actually correct. It is wheelchair basketball. Oh, that kind of does bug me because the other two clues were going to be it was played on a court and an icon recently retired. So that still could have been any number of those court sports, but you did get it. So 3 points for you, Nathan. Well done. Now for your final sport. I think this is the hardest one yet. There are two classifications in this sport. One class, class one is for athletes who don't require any assistance, and the second one allows for supports.
Oh man, I kind of want to go. I know that's right now. I'm going to explain my thought process. One of the first sports that comes to mind was para-equestrian, but I do believe there is a lot more classes to para-equestrian. However, a sport that has supports that's coming to mind is boccia. However, boccia does have 4 different classes there. So a sport with 2 classes kind of eliminate that. I'm really going deep into the well right now. I'm going to have to throw just something out there. I'm going to say para-archery.
No. I will say the second clue, it's been a Paralympic sport since Toronto 1976.
With 2 classification categories. Okay.
This is the hardest one.
So it's not archery. It's also not going to be equestrian. And they need assistance. That's where it gets very, very tricky.
And for reference as well, this information and these stats come from the Paralympic.ca, the Canadian Paralympic Committee website. So that is where I'm pulling this information from. So there's no bias or misinformation out there.
Well, there's never any misinformation on the internet. But never. No. Let's say, I want to say para-judo.
No, that is incorrect. Your final clue, accuracy, is the name of the game. So there's 2 classifications in the sport. One classification is for no assistance. The second one allows for supports. And I think that is a key word, supports. It's been a Paralympic sport since Toronto 1976. And accuracy is the name of the game.
I have a feeling there's someone listening screaming the sport out right now. My thought was archery, which was incorrect.
Yeah, it was incorrect. You are close. I will say you are close with that sport.
I have a feeling it's going to be one that is just I'm going to be kicking myself when you do say it. Is there any, I'm going through the Rolodex. No, nothing with it.
It's one we haven't talked about. It's one we haven't really talked about on the show.
Was there any?
It is a Paralympic sport.
Was there any Paris Paralympians that participated in this sport? Am I allowed to ask for hints?
Well, I'm the last hint I'm giving you, it is very close to archery. You were very close with that.
And it's not shooting.
Is that your guess?
I guess that's what I have to go with, is shooting.
It is parachuting, Nathan. You finally guessed it. I gave you like 6 extra clues, but fine.
Yeah.
I will give it to you. I'll give you a 0.5
you.
on that one. So there you
Okay.
go. You finally guessed it. It was a bit of a struggle there, but we made it in the end. So next time.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, it was a tricky one on purpose. I don't want to give it to you too easy, but you know what? Yeah, you took so much time, but you finally hit the bullseye. Unfortunately, the clock strikes there on Nathan. So we're out of time. But thank you for watching and listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.